spending them long smoky nights in the little red room downstairs. Um, this is part two of my Syria crisis. See what you think. If maybe part three will come, maybe it won't. Fermanagh, it's not exactly on the tourist map. There used to be a railway track went down there, but they took it away for the crack. And it's kind of big portions, oldie worldy time, sort of passes in Roman numerals instead of normal minutes. It's sort of got ancient woodlands, and it's more kind of, it's got 100 different lakes. And you can tell you're entering in Fermanagh because a dark cloud, you can see it as you're getting closer to it, and the cloud gradually goes over your head and it rains. That's how it gets all them lakes. And the only really violent things in Fermanagh are the swans that attack your hand for bread. So it's a gentle, relaxed place, good for writing off jet skis, hiding weed grows, and close to nowhere in particular. And the bus trundled on. I eventually made it down there. Went and tried to find their house and find her. And I going up to Fermanagh and not visiting my relatives would be a cardinal sin, because I didn't want anyone to know I was in Fermanagh. I just wanted to get my head down. I was on a mission to find this love of my life. I didn't care if it was a poetry night or whatever it was. It could have been anything. If she was going there, I was going. I didn't care less. So I found her, and we ended up going to this poetry night. What are we going to again? Oh, poetry. Oh yes, that makes sense. Poetry's a weird one because people take you down such strange mental avenues and mental cul-de-sacs. And each poem, someone's trying to fit the most brave and most out there and most impactful words in each poem, coming straight out from the deepest recess of their subconscious, and they're going to put it out their waterfall mouth, and it's coming straight to your ears. And then if you times that by, each poet does about 5 different poems. Everyone's trying to outdo each other, see how wild and current they can be, and it's always about similar modern pressing issues that you see in the news again and again, and people hammering away at the same issues, and then you're like, all right, fair enough, send me the memo, it's shorter. Or it's someone taking you through each bit of their sexual experience indulgently. But the poems I like the most are the poems, the ones about something we can all share, like a sunset. This guy done this poem about feeling safe in the morning time because it reminded him of being young. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And it was told by a sort of farmer character who looked the most inconspicuous character. And it was the most beautiful thing. But you have to sit through a lot of mental silage and sludge to get to the gems. But once you get to the gems, it's amazing. So we trundled our way down to this poetry night after eating some vegetarian food and drinking some liquor I'd stole from my house. I got there, and I didn't know just how long poetry nights were. So I thought to myself, I'll have a pint once every 4 poems. And I couldn't get that drunk. Couldn't be that many poems. Take a break for a second for our history showdown. Snoop Dogg versus Oscar Wilde. The battle of the classes. Who will win? Rap or poetry? But the poetry night went on for ages, and I'd been scooped a couple of times by her sneaking my way upstairs to get a pint for each poem, or one disapproving look on each time up the stairs. It's the worst kind of date because it's just like the cinema. You're stuck beside this person in silence for about 2 hours, and if you talk too much. If you don't talk, he didn't talk to me all the way through. And so I was like, well, I'll just not talk. But then it made me seem really distant, and I gradually, the poetry night went on for hours and hours, and I gradually started, I don't know if you'd think 4 poems, how many hours, divide that between. But anyway, when I got to my about 9th pint, and I was getting very drunk, and all the poems were about people's divorces, war zones, and I was like, fuck, this was a night out. I'm like, yes, it went on into the night. And people talking about, this guy was talking about having sex on the rocks, there was a male lover, and it went on. So I thought, well, maybe I could just sneak upstairs for a while. No one would even notice I'm gone. Everyone was so intent in hearing about the fifth poem about the Syrian conflict that I was like, I won't even be noticed if I just sneak up and have a bit of crack with the lovely people of Fermanagh. It, you know what I mean? I won't even be noticed. I'll be able to, you know, talk and talk to people, which becomes such a privilege after it's been taken away from you for 2 hours on a night out. And so I slipped my way upstairs and I could sneak back down to the poetry night in a bit. No one would even notice. And I could pretend I was like, oh yeah, fucking right, yeah. Give it the two thumbs up, be like, oh yes, poetry. And all while this, she was thinking like, oh, that the rascal doesn't even like poetry at all. He doesn't even respect the fine art of poetry. Does he not know these people are putting their lives out on stage? So I snuck up and I just wanted some attention and crack because I felt very icy and alone whenever I was with this woman. And you weren't picking up any nice warm signs. It was sort of like cold, and I felt like I was on the rocks with these two lovers, and I just wasn't involved, and metaphorically. So I went up and was all like, well, what's the crack? And it was full of red-faced middle-aged people, and the air hung heavy with the descent of middle-aged men. It was everyone was about 4 or 5 pints in, and I was the bartender was shining the glass. Everything was grand, and I was all like, I was chatting to the guy. I was like, see that Celtic and that Rangers, both shite. Fucking come on up to the Premier League and get your way out of the Scottish League if you enjoy getting beaten by Fulham. And the bartender looked at me being like, you're going to cause a fucking riot in here, you monster. And I was all like, fucking right, here I go. And I got the whole place in a big argument, and they're all like, no, the Scottish League is class. And I was like, Dundee United? Really? I was all like, what about a load of famous rivalry? You could have a famous rivalry in the Premiership. I was like, come on up. And if I had have said Celtic was awful, I would have got it beaten. If I had have said Rangers was awful, I would have got it beaten. But if you say they're both awful, it just causes a good fun debate. And after a couple of pints and a hearty discussion later, I snuck back downstairs. And I was so drunk I arrived back in the middle of someone's poem. Oh, I could feel the scorn of people's eyes looking at me. I came in and there was a big light. The whole room was filled of light. And just the shadow of me in the door as I snuck my way to the bar. And she noticed all this. Well, I realised at this point, whenever she frowned at me, whenever I took the seat beside her, that this was actually going really badly. And I hadn't been down in Fermanagh in 6 years, but for some random reason, a friend of mine from Belfast, who wears the velvet jackets, plays the mandolin, and woos the ladies with the mandolin, coming down to Fermanagh for that open mic that night. They've been talking to him before recently, and while I was upstairs causing a political incident, he was downstairs wooing her with his mandolin, playing music in the poetry night. It's sort of cheating, but so we went to the pub after. Well, I dare say we went with them to the pub afterwards, but sort of stumbled to the pub afterwards. I was meant to be staying over at her house, but I was all like, this is going so badly. Am I even still her guest? Well, I was chatting to all these people in the pub and everything, and I looked round, and they were all gone. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, they've just left the pub. They've left me. She's left me homeless in Enniskillen. And I couldn't call on my religious relatives at 1:30 in the morning. Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't do it. For a start, they wouldn't answer the door. For a second, they'd be all like, you came 2 hours down to Fermanagh and didn't visit your relatives. Well, I'm not answering the door. I found them halfway down the street. And she was like, oh, well, we're just about to go in and get you. And I was like, oh, right, where are you? We're going to send a wee message in a bottle, were you? Send the carrier pigeon in? And I was like, you ditched me at the bar. And this was the point. I should have just shut up. But I was like, and because she had found a new person, she had found my friend, and all she wanted was a wee bit of Belfast, and she got a talented member of Belfast, and I was yesterday's thing. I said to her, I was like, even though I'm yesterday's thing. There's no need to leave your guest homeless in Enniskillen. And just a word from our sponsors. Steel Air Airplanes. Every half an hour you'll get an official lady dance. Confetti comes down, a naked woman draped in the American flag does a dance how about that, instead of safety instructions. And all you need to know is that there's a button and an ejector seat underneath your chair that has a parachute round the back. And can any other airline offer you that? Now that's what I'm calling first class. And she was like, well, I can do what I want. I was like, oh, I suppose you can, but I was never any doubt in that. But I could drop my trousers in front of school kids. But it's not. It's no. It's not that I couldn't do that. It's that it might not be the right thing to do. And I was trying to describe that, but I had to awkwardly follow them back to the party. She was bringing people back to her house to have a party, and I was meant to be sleeping in the living room, which is a shocking place to have to sleep. Whenever you don't want to be at a party and you're at a party and you're way too drunk, and I was just sitting there swaying, and the endless trad tunes that never seemed to end. There'd be one tune on repeat, or I was just too drunk to understand, and the endless stories and flirting went on. Oh, and I was just sitting there. Eventually, she took charity on me. So awkward having to follow them back to the house. Because it was either that or homeless, and I was like, just push yourself through it, Nicholas. And so she eventually took charity on me and let me sleep in her bed. Woke up the next day in their bed, and it was so awkward, and I was a big headache, and I was fucking raging about being ditched in the bar, and I was like, fucking hell. I was like, why do I keep on doing these things? I clearly had them thoughts in my head not to take risks for good reason. It's with situations like this don't happen. I'm never pursuing a woman more than 10 miles radius on the hope of romantic, and I awkwardly left her house, and we were meant to be going down to Belfast the next day together, but something told me that was off. And I ended up in all-you-can-eat Chinese, talking about it on my friend on the phone. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, fuck, no wonder the Turkish can't handle these people. And then she was probably at home thinking, God, no wonder the English can't handle these people. I was getting the bus home, and there's a whole other section to this story that I'm not going to put up because it's way too wild. But maybe someday. If anyone wants to know the end, they can ask me personally.